When does the National Rifle Association not want you to associate with your rifle in this nation? How can you tell if you're really, really crazy? How can you tell if you don't know how to be a decent human being? For April 17th, 2015, from the stylish high-tech underground studios of Ribbit Media in struggling to be temperate Cranston, Rhode Island, this is NewsUndies. For April 17th, 2015, this is NewsUndies, all the news that shouldn't be news. Pig and sheep are off this week. I'm Paul Torville with these headlines. The National Rifle Association, which in recent years has been very noisy about preserving the rights of U.S. citizens to own, carry, and use firearms in all settings and in all places, and has advocated the position that the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, has decided to ban guns at the nighttime speaking and musical events at its convention in Nashville this year. You can carry your guns around all you want at the daytime events at Music City Center, a block away from the Bridgestone Arena where the really interesting people and events are. Oh, way to walk the talk, NRA. There once was a man named Eric Harris. In fact, he was as recently as last Friday. Then a 73-year-old volunteer reserve deputy shot Harris while a number of other officers were pig-piled on top of Harris. Harris, an unarmed black man, shouted out, "He shot me," several times, then said, "I'm losing my breath," to which one of the officers, crushing the life out of him, said, "Fuck your breath." To be fair, Harris was no angel. He had multiple convictions and was about to be arrested for selling meth and a gun to undercover officers when he fled, leading to the altercation that ended his life. Considering that the sheriff's office has the motto, "Total commitment serving others," and neither the Tulsa police, in whose jurisdiction the killing took place, nor the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office seems to be in any kind of a hurry to identify any culpable parties, it seems to me the Sheriff's Office might want to reconsider the wording of its motto. You may have heard of the Westboro Baptist Church, that font of compassion from Topeka, Kansas, run until 13 months ago by the now late Fred Phelps, a pastor whose flock includes some of his family, and a couple dozen other loons from the surrounding area. A church, using the term loosely, now apparently operated by Phelps's foam-flecked attention whore daughter, who, at any rate, has been the mouthpiece for her father and his so-called church for decades. But I digress. Dennis Labont, who claims to be the imperial wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, yes, that Ku Klux Klan, the one famous for burning crosses in people's yards and lynching blacks as recently as has recently said of the Westboro Baptist Church, quote, "Knights of the Southern Cross, soldiers of the Ku Klux Klan, we are here in protest of the Westboro Baptist Church. I'm a veteran. I've spent 9.5 years in the military. I've got brothers and sisters buried in this cemetery, and I think that it's an absolute shame that they show up and disrupt the funerals." End quote. That's like Shirley MacLaine looking askance at Deepak Chopra and saying, "Come on, even I know you're batshit." And speaking of batshit, J. Christian Adams, a former Justice Department official, visited the crew at Fox and Friends recently to comment on the passage of a new ordinance in Madison, Wisconsin, which makes discrimination against atheists by businesses in the city illegal. According to Adams, the bill was spearheaded by the Freedom from Religion Foundation, an organization which Adams characterized as very powerful, and said hectors governments to pass anti-Christian, anti-religious ordinances. They team up with government. For example, they were behind getting the IRS to monitor sermons and homilies by Christian pastors. End quote. That's when Fox's resident recovering bow-tie junkie Tucker Carlson chimed in, quote, "That's right. It's never about tolerating their views. It's about attacking other people's views." End quote. Adams then wandered out into the weeds, talking about how the Bible instructs believers to disassociate from non-believers, and how airlines might not want to hire atheist pilots because they don't believe in hell. Adams then put the button on the whole thing with his screamingly nonsensical outright lie, quote, "These people are so committed to their own version of theology. They have such hatred of Christians and Jews publicly exercising their faith." End quote. Mr. Adams, I really don't think you understand what you're saying. At all. I'll respond to your points in reverse order, if I may. The atheists I know are able to distinguish between the believer and the belief, in a sinner-sin-play-a-game sort of way. You seem to think that your right to do whatever you think you can justify under the umbrella of your religion is absolute and irrevocable. You know who has that same attitude? Al-Qaeda. Al-Shabaab. You hold an extremist position, which cannot be workable in a pluralistic, cooperative society. Second, atheists have no theology. None. Not a version. None. And I don't know any atheists who are committed to being atheists. To a person, all the atheists I know would accept the existence of a God were they to be presented with credible, objectively verifiable evidence. I can't think of one of them who would worship such a being, but they'd accept its existence. To not accept overwhelming objective evidence supporting a claim is even more stupid than believing a claim in the absence of that evidence. You know, like not accepting evolution or anthropogenic climate change, despite the mountains of evidence. That's dumb! And speaking of dumb, a telescope is under construction on Mauna Kea in Hawaii, in the same ash field where the twin Keck telescopes and the Subaru telescope and a bunch of smaller instruments have been for decades. Now a group of native Hawaiians is suing to stop construction of the imaginatively named 30-meter telescope, which will have 9 times the power of the Keck, which is already huge. The natives are making 2 complaints. First, that the site is sacred. Dubious at best. And second, that the site is a watershed, and the construction company is not properly doing all the things to keep pollutants out of the runoff. I hate to have to point this out, but it's a volcanic ash field, full of sulfur compounds, heavy metals, radioactive elements, and who knows what all else. I would imagine it would be pretty tough to find any byproducts from the construction process in the runoff from such an intrinsically toxic site. And sure, the Hawaiians got almost as raw a deal as the natives on the mainland, but when the natives complained that there won't be any pure Hawaiians left on the planet by 2040, I can't help thinking that sounds a little racist. Doesn't it? I mean, what are we talking about here? Genetics? Racial purity? Traditions die. It's a fact of life. If your traditional culture can't hold the attention and sustain the interest of your kids, that's not my fault. Nor is it my fault if your kids want to spawn outside your race. Hey gang, it's time for celebrity birthdays once again. Let's rock. For the 11th, Jeremy Clarkson. For the 12th, Hardy Kruger. For the 13th, Butch Cassidy, dead. For the 14th, Jerry Anderson, dead. And for the 15th, Kim Il-sung, dead. For the 16th, Charlie Chaplin, dead. And for the 17th, Roddy Piper. That's celebrity birthdays. I'm Paul Torville, and I'm done! Don't hide that cheese. Still to come, you tell me you want me, but then you turn me away. Run, Forrest, run! And the Capitol Steps perform! Hi, I'm Paul Torville. You may know me from such popular web shows as Bible Answers. When I started the show back up for 2015, I got a comment from a subscriber. He said that he enjoyed the show and would watch it together with his father. I was touched. But then he said something that caught me off guard. He said, "I can't understand why your show isn't more popular." Well, I gave it some thought. I'm pretty sure it's not because the show sucks. I've been getting fairly consistent positive feedback from the viewers since the show's return from hiatus. What doesn't seem to be happening, though, is the views per episode have been fairly flat, and subscriptions have not been increasing. For those of you who regularly watch the show, I have a request. Please spread the word. If you have some time, anything you can do to grow awareness and interest in NewsUndies would be appreciated. Thank you. Easter. So far, we have 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat having thrown their hats into the 2016 presidential ring. You may have heard of them. Democrat Hillary Rodham Clinton, former First Lady, former U.S. Senator, former Secretary of State, attorney, mother, and grandmother. And Republicans, Joe McCarthy lookalike Senator Ted Cruz, Ayn Rand acolyte Senator Rand Paul, and anti-Cuba Cuban Marco Rubio. Now, let's remember that the election is still 18 months away. Between now and then, we could see 3 or more Democrats and 9 or more Republicans joining the race. Yes, that's right. You could see as many as a dozen Republicans on the early debate stages. Among the yet-to-announce possible Republican candidates are such joke butts as Jeb Bush, Scott Walker, Chris Christie, Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, Rick Perry, Bobby Jindal, Carly Fiorina, and Ben Carson. Among possible Democrats who've yet to announce are Martin O'Malley, Jim Webb, and Lincoln Chafee. I'm pretty sure if you're not from Maryland, Rhode Island, or Virginia, you probably know less about these 3 people than you did about Sarah Palin in 2007. There's something to be said for that kind of anonymity. Knowing what I know about all the Republicans disqualifies them in my book. What's entertaining to me, though, is that all of the Republicans who either have announced or may announce have at least one position that makes them a non-starter for any voter who's not a far-right teabagger. So you'll probably see a lot of close races in the primaries, with a thoroughly unelectable nominee picked at the end of the Republican National Convention next summer. And as long as the Democrats don't put up a cold bag of vomit as their candidate and then fail to vote at all, the Republicans will lose. Most, if not all, of the Republican possibilities are overtly anti-science on at least one critical issue, and at least half are fairly sure that Jesus wrote the Constitution. At least a third of them are publicly anti-gay, and when pressed, I'm pretty sure you can count on all of them to oppose a woman's right to choose whether or not to terminate her own pregnancy. Those with U.S. Senate or House records can be counted on to support the USA Patriot Act, oppose gun regulation, support tax cuts for the wealthy, and benefit cuts for the poor. And you'd better believe that if a little country full of brown people steps out of line, they're ready to press for military intervention, just as long as we don't have to pay for the ongoing health care of returning veterans, because that costs money that should be going to the Koch brothers. This field of retards, and I use the term advisedly, is the best the GOP has to offer, apparently. And then, after the nomination process has run its course and the GOP officially stands up its top dog, watching as the also-rans appear in campaign ads and speaking engagements for their former rival with dead-eyed grins and spouting disingenuous platitudes, oh, that's priceless. Also, Bernie Sanders may run. Big retailers and fast food companies in New York are under scrutiny for doing something called on-call scheduling. This is where you, as an employee, receive your schedule, and then you could be told, yeah, thanks, we don't need you today. As an added bonus, if they tell you just before you show up, they don't have to pay you. Awesome! So you have to make a hole in your schedule for your employer, and your employer can tell you to get stuffed. So any other employment opportunities you might have been able to take advantage of, gone. Did you schedule childcare? Gee, that's too bad. Thankfully, the Attorney General of New York is looking into this and putting pressure on employers to provide schedules their employees can count on. Of course, employers are complaining about a dynamic business climate which requires them to maintain flexibility in scheduling. Well, that's all fine, but employers need to understand that their relationship with their employees is hugely lopsided in favor of the employer. What's not to like? And now for the week ending April 17th, here's Paul Torville with your exclusive Pastcast weather. Here's your exclusive Pastcast weather. The Appalachian region saw snow in the north and rain in the south, then sunny and cool. The southern Atlantic coast, down here, well, they had a few thunderstorms and it was warm, which was great because thunderstorms are fun. Florida, Saw scattered thunderstorms, warm, sunny conditions, and it was warm. You know. And warm. I'm Paul Torville. That's your exclusive Pastcast weather. No Soap Radio, still to come, courting a sports hero. Your boyfriend must be a catch. And how to make a momentary impression on a small number of disinterested people.
Whether you prefer post-industrial vampire trance music or neo-gothic nerdcore speed thrash, Royal Records is the record store for you. Royal Records has albums and cassettes from many of your favorite artists, including The Letterman, The Righteous Brothers, The Insane Clown Posse, The Slipknots, and The Nine Inch Nails. No matter your taste, you'll find the records and tapes you love at Royal Records, Main Street, downtown. Open weekdays from 10 to 4.
And now, here's Moose Weintraub with a Sports Half Minute.
Moose Weintraub Sports Half Minute. It's a whole half minute of sports. 30 seconds of sports. Moose Weintraub Sports Half Minute.
This is your Sports Half Minute. I'm Moose Weintraub. Former New England Patriot Aaron Hernandez was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole.
Moose, is this just an attempt by the court in Fall River to make up for acquitting Lizzie Borden in 1892?
Really? What the hell kind of a stupid question is that?
Well, I just thought the recent pop culture focus on Lizzie Borden and the Hernandez trial taking place only about a block from the house where the Borden murders took place.
You know what? You're an idiot. Do you seriously think that the Lizzie Borden case has anything to do with this?
Well,
No. The Aaron Hernandez conviction has nothing at all to do with
okay.
Lizzie Borden.
Thanks, Moose.
Idiot.
Moose Weintraub Sports Half Minute.
Thanks, Moose. Always a great report from Moose. Here's a couple of tidbits to warm your heart. St. Louis, Missouri Archbishop Robert Carlson gave a sworn deposition as a witness in a case against the Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minneapolis and the Diocese of Winona, both in Minnesota. And Carlson served in high positions in both before becoming the Archbishop of St. Louis. Carlson gave a sworn deposition connected with the suit against his former dioceses, in which he indicated that he wasn't sure if it was illegal to have sex with children. I'm sure Carlson doesn't have time for this Minnesota crap that happened 30 years ago. His own archdiocese is the defendant in a suit which claims over 100 priests and church employees engaged in sexual abuse. And as if that wasn't enough to turn your stomach, an arrest warrant has been issued for Naia Parler, 41, from the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. What could possibly have set off such a thing? Well, the charges currently lodged against Parler include, quote, simple assault, aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, neglect of care-dependent person, unlawful restraint, false imprisonment, and kidnapping, end quote. That sounds pretty serious. Well, apparently it all started when a so-called Good Samaritan discovered a 21-year-old quadriplegic in a wooded area outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The individual found turned out to be Parler's son. And in addition to being quadriplegic, he also suffers from cerebral palsy and is non-communicative. He was found with no food or water, his wheelchair 10 feet away. He was covered in leaves and appeared to have been left with nothing but a blanket and a Bible. Ah, yes, the ubiquitous panacea, the Christian Bible. The story, to the extent the authorities have been able to put it together, is that Parler dumped her son in the woods and hopped a bus to visit her boyfriend in Maryland, 5 days before her son was discovered in the woods. The phrase, left for dead, comes to mind. Of all the people who should be fed slowly, feet first, into a dull wood chipper, I think Naila Parler just might deserve cuts to the head of the line. On the bright side, Parler's son, apart from being hungry, chilly, and dehydrated, appears to be recovering as well as can be expected. And finally, and I do mean finally, we all saw this coming, didn't we? This past week has been very exciting at the U.S. Capitol building. Last Saturday saw 22-year-old Leo Thornton from Lincolnwood, Illinois, commit suicide near the Capitol's visitor center. He was apparently protesting social injustice or something to do with taxes. Some have claimed the sign that he was holding said, "Tax the 1%," although no clear photos or authoritative reports have been released. Immediately after he shot himself, Capitol Police swooped in and neutralized him. Not sure what the hell that means. I mean, how much more neutral can you get? And no, the Capitol Police don't seem to be saying much about what the sign said either. Then, as if that wasn't enough excitement for 1 week, postal worker Douglas Mark Hughes, 61, from Ruskin, Florida, landed what most news outlets are calling a gyro-copter on the west lawn of the Capitol building on Wednesday. As a tax day stunt to bring attention to the need for campaign finance reform. Extra points to Hughes for publicizing his plan for months on his website and even tipping off the Tampa Bay Times. Hughes had planned to walk away from his auto gyro with the 535 individually addressed copies of his letter to all the senators and representatives in the Capitol and hand-deliver them. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Capitol Police were there when he landed, weapons drawn, and he was quickly bundled away. A bomb squad robot examined the aircraft, and it was further inspected by heavily padded people. No bombs, just letters. Never going to be delivered. So, taxing the 1% and campaign finance reform, both good ideas, both not going to happen. Good to know. Well, that's all for this edition of NewsUndies. If you see news that shouldn't be news, you can submit your story tips online at newsundies.com or on Twitter with the hashtag NUSTip. NewsUndies is a weekly show. We'll be back on Friday, April 24th with fresh undies. If you like this video, please like this video. If you like the show, please spread the word. Got a question, comment, or suggestion? Leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, circle us on Google+, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, ignore us on MySpace, tell your friends, and buy NewsUndies Kitsch at newsundies.com. Thanks for watching. For all of us here at NewsUndies, until next time, I'm Paul Torville. After that, I might be confusing Marco Rubio for Ralph Rubio. And apparently... Oh, and appeared to have... Oh, damn it. Could you back up one, please, on the prompter? He wasn't sure if he knew if it... Oh, god damn it. And Carlson served a... Oh, golly. Who wrote this crap? I think it was me.
And sentenced to life in prison
against the former dioceses. His former dioceses. Ah, there we are.
This conviction has nothing to...
Last Saturday saw 22... Yes, it is 22. Discovered a... Okay.
That was my fault.
Can you back up one, please?
Yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm going to take it from...
I started, like, reading.
Yeah.
Aaron Hernandez for blah, blah, blah.
Died near the Capitol... Oh, damn it.
I just want to tell you good luck. We're all counting on you.